Hey, what's up, guys? Back at the table. We're going to react to a fellow named British HODL talking about sell your gold and buy your Bitcoin. This video is specifically for the gold bugs. I used to be one. This is the only gold I have right now. Everything you see in front of me is, silver that I like and things like that. But British HODL is a multi-millionaire from the UK. He doesn't live there anymore, I don't think, but he's a multi-millionaire, very successful guy, made his money through real estate, and he was a big time gold bug, as he'll tell you in this video. So let's see what he has to say about the gold and the gold bugs and the alternative to that.
Today we're going to save the same people that are like me that needed saving. I saved myself in 2020, and so now we're going to save some people today. What I'm talking about is gold bugs. I'm talking about gold bugs that are sitting around, holding a bunch of gold, thinking that this is going to reprice one day, because that's the mission. The mission is we need to reprice the US dollar one day with our gold. And so as a former gold bug, as someone who promoted the investment in gold, as someone who, put my own money and wealth and put it into gold for a number of years, from 2009 all the way up until 2020, I had a significant gold position. I want to walk you through exactly why Bitcoin is a better alternative to gold and is a better investment to gold. And then you can make your own decision up. But at least this is my impersonation of how gold bugs are waiting around for gold price to gold to reprice the US dollar. This is what Robert Kiyosaki and all these other gold promoters told you was going to happen. Gold suddenly going to reprice itself.
Oh my goodness. I was laughing when that part happened. But yeah, he's right. People do sit around, gold bugs sit around. I was the same way. I thought, when I had gold that, the US dollar was going to reprice itself and, gold is it and everything else. And again, this is not to bash gold, but you just got to look at the facts, man. And my channel is called Jerry Loves Freedom, and I'm going to give you the facts. I'm going to present the other side of the argument, because sometimes we live in an echo chamber, guys. You know what I mean? And I was in there too. But you got to look for the truth, and you got to see the better alternative.
And you're gonna get super wealthy. What if you die before you get wealthy when it comes to gold? Right? That's the problem. There are fundamental flaws with gold that I want to cover here that I think everyone needs to be aware of. Then, if you want to have gold in your portfolio, it's totally up to you. But I think it's very important for you to be aware, just like I became aware, of the issues. And just like my parents. By the way, I'm African Indian. I've not only got the African, I've got the Indian as well. Gold is my entire lineage, is gold.
That right there is very interesting to me, to see a guy who's multi-ethnic and both of his ethnicities are, their culture is gold. You know what I mean? So to look at that, that's cool for me. So let's see what he says next.
And I was the first one to recover from that, because you realize that gold isn't as limited as is presented to you. Gold also doesn't reprice as often as is presented to you. And I want to break down some of these things that you can understand and then decide, okay, do I want to continue holding my gold position and waiting like you just saw me wait? By the way, that waiting time period was 15 years. I don't know whether you picked that up or not. That was a 15-year waiting time period. That's what gold bugs have been doing, right?
Now that's crazy, because he had a lot of gold. I watched some of his videos, and I did the same thing. Now, I didn't put it all into Bitcoin. I put a tiny bit of it in cash, but the other, 98% of it, I put it into Bitcoin the most, vintage silver, and some platinum. That's what I did.
So let's go through some of the first issues with gold that I came up with and that really concerned me, and why I decided to sell my entire gold position by the end of 2020 and move it all into Bitcoin. Gold is touted as a rare, limited asset. And the reality is that how we measure hard assets is something called stock to flow. Now, a lot of people, if you've been looking around the Bitcoin space at all, then you're going to remember the stock to flow pricing model. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about the concept of stock to flow. Basically, what it means is how many years of new flow of a particular asset does it take to replace all of the on-ground supply, stock to flow. And the longer it takes to replace all of the on-ground supply, the harder the asset is, right? And so for gold, it takes somewhere between 55 and 65 years to replace all of the on-ground supply with the new flow coming out on a yearly basis. Now, how is this affected? How is this actually controlled? There's several ways that it's affected and controlled. Number one, you have mining permits, right? So they might say, countries might say, we're going to hand out mining permits for more gold exploration, okay? That's number one. Number two is the price of gold. If the price of gold goes up, more attention goes into digging gold out of the ground, right? Because if the price of gold went up to $10,000, I wouldn't be wearing that ring. I'd be like, hey, take that ring and get me some Bitcoin. So the gold has turned into this idea that because central banks had a minority percentage, right? It was 40% that the US dollar was backed by gold, that's the currency that we need to step back into. And we have this, humanity has this weird virus where we think going backwards will allow us to go forwards faster, and that's not how it works. The point of gold is that it is limited, cannot be controlled by human beings, it is controlled by nature. And we, gold bugs were presenting the idea that we've hit peak gold, etc., etc. All of these little conspiracy theories about gold, like have we hit peak gold? It's just something that's being developed by Mother Nature, and everyone's talking about, is it peak gold? This is put out there to continue the interest in ownership of gold. Because imagine if you found out that there is no such thing as peak gold.
Yep, I used to watch all those videos. Oh, is this it? Is this the peak? Is this the top? Blah, blah, blah. Here it comes. No peak gold. Very interesting.
Right? It's just this year we might have less coming out the ground. Next year we might have more. There's no such thing as peak gold. You wouldn't be interested in owning gold. So all of the rhetoric is pushed out there saying, okay, you need to own gold because it's limited. We've hit peak gold, etc., etc. And this is just not true because more and more gold keeps getting discovered. I think Uganda, they discovered tons of gold in Uganda, and gold just keeps being discovered. And as the price goes up, the incentives for discovering and digging more gold out the ground goes up because there's more profit to be made.
There are so many places on this planet that have gold that we don't even know. You know what I mean? And like I said the other day, in caverns underneath the sea, they will build these crazy submarines to go down there and get the gold. There's gold in the asteroid belts. Trust me, when the demand goes up, the supply must go up, and they will find ways to get more.
So right now, the stock to flow of gold might be 55 to 65 years, but what happens when the gold price is $10,000 an ounce and every gold bug's wet dream comes true and the gold is repriced into US dollars? What happens in that scenario? Right? And suddenly, let's say it's $10,000 an ounce. You're looking at a metric shit ton of new miners coming into the market to try and mine more gold to sell it. And what does that eventually do? Increases the supply, brings down the stock to flow ratio, and ultimately rebalances the price. Now, the price might not come back down to where it is, but it's certainly not going to stay at $10,000 an ounce as more supply hits the market. So gold is the benefits of gold are true, but gold cannot keep up and cash the check that the gold bugs write for it, because gold is a past technology at this point, right? We can say, yes, gold has been the best money that we have found up until now. Complete sense. That's what clicked for me. Because the true value of gold is the scarcity that the gold provides.
Exactly. That's when it clicked for me too, because I'm looking at a digital, so much technology in this world that it's going to be very hard and very difficult, to be honest, for a world to be passing around gold coins or, certificates or whatever, papers backed by those gold. And I'm going to make a video about that tomorrow, why we should not go back to the gold standard. But yeah, I couldn't agree more.
But there's a reason why real estate is a bigger market cap than gold, because real estate is scarcer than gold. Even though it doesn't look like it, real estate has a 120-year stock-to-flow ratio. So it's 120 years to build all of the real estate again. So that's why real estate has a bigger market cap. And that's extremely important to remember. The second issue with gold is that we went through the biggest flu season that the world has ever seen. We went through wartime lockdowns. We went through the Armageddon scenario that all of the gold bugs, including myself at one point, were presenting. We went through this whole period of 2 or 3 years where the entire world, every single person, not one country here, not 3 or 4 countries here, the entire world was locked down and told to sit at home because the world is going to end. And gold went from 1,500 to 1,900 an ounce.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think silver went from 15, 16, or 17 up to like little, early 20s, mid 20s. You know what I mean? And then with the money printing keep going and going and going, it's just like, okay, we 5x the money supply. Why isn't silver going from $15 to 15 times 5? Or why isn't gold going from 1,400 to 5 times the amount of that? You know what I mean? Again, I got into gold and silver in the middle of the pandemic in the summer of 2020, and I'm looking at all this stuff, it's making sense. But then I'm just like, if all this money is being printed, you guys say this is the ultimate store of wealth. Why is it not keeping up with the money supply?
It's like every single promise that these gold bugs are making you for keeping your wealth in gold doesn't make any sense. I'm going to show you a chart in a second to show you. Right now we're going through the ideological reasons. I'm going to show you the financial reasons why it doesn't make any sense to hold gold. So we went through that period, and that period should have really allowed gold to shine, but it didn't. Why? Because gold is not as scarce as you think it is. Gold is not the asset that you think it is. The very fact that gold doesn't have finality or scarcity means that it can't cash the check that the gold bugs are writing for it.
Let's stop it right there. Finality of scarcity, meaning how much gold is there in the world, or how much are we capable of getting? What's the final amount of it? We don't know. Nobody knows. Bitcoin, for a fact there's 21 million. How many ounces of gold are there in the world? No one knows. And we're going to get more into that later.
And that's very important to remember, because at the end of the day, you are sitting there, just like my parents are sitting there, owning gold because they believe it's the right thing to do, and gold will ultimately keep them safe. The best part about gold is that it's a bearer instrument, right? It's a bearer instrument. I can take that gold, unlike my property or my stocks, and I can go across a border and still have value. You know what else is a bearer instrument on that small scale? A Rolex, a watch, a timepiece, a ring. All of these things are bearer instruments that you can use in certain moments of trying to execute trade in tough times. And I would argue it's better, because a Rolex has better perceived value than gold does anywhere in the world.
Yeah, I love bearer assets. These are bearer assets right here. This is why I always say on my channel, you got to diversify, of course, but you need physical, aka bearer assets, and you also need the digital. Period. You need both. We'll get into more of that later.
The gold bugs are lying. And they're lying because if they were not lying, and if gold was truly the scarce asset that everyone thinks it is, then every gold mining company would hold gold on their balance sheet. They wouldn't sell it. Why would you dig something up that's so scarce and so rare and then sell it into the market? That doesn't make sense. Find me one gold mining company that has more than 25% of its cash reserves in gold. Like long-term holdings in gold. Right? If you do that, and you said it to me and it's true, more than 25% of its long-term holdings, cash treasury in gold for their own benefit, if someone finds me that, whoever's the first person to find me that, I will give you $500. I will send you $500 in Bitcoin, actually. Because it's not real. These gold companies are incentivized to sell the gold, to turn it into a profit, because they know that the dollars are more valuable than the gold, because they can expand the business like that.
Yeah, and that's a tough pill to swallow for gold bugs, but it's the truth. Now, on the opposite end, you got Bitcoin miners, right? Bitcoin miners, now, of course, they have to make a profit to use the dollars to put back in their business and get equipment and pay their bills and stuff like that. But a lot of that Bitcoin that they mine, they keep it. And again, why aren't the gold bugs keeping at least 25%? And I highly suggest you go to his channel. And if you can find a company that has over 25% on their balance sheet that they keep for themselves, Hey, good luck. I couldn't find one. You know what I mean? But Bitcoin miners do that. Again, they take a percentage of it and pay their bills with it, but a lot of it, or the majority of it, they keep it on their balance sheets.
The gold bug dream has never been real. And I got suckered into it as well. Again, a lot of it was cultural for me, and then a lot of it was listening to people around me that said you got to have a gold allocation. The other part that's quite interesting is none of these gold experts, Peter Schiff, Robert Kiyosaki, blah, 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 will ever tell you that you need to go 100% into gold. They'll never tell you that it is the final investment. They'll never tell you that there is no alternative. There's always an alternative. They say go 10% into gold. What do I do with the other 90? If you're saying that, all of this money is being debased and everything else, what do I do with the other 90% of my wealth? Why can't I put it into gold? Because they know that it doesn't perform. The very fact that gold's supply is adjusted by the demand lever is a problem for a hard asset. Whereas when it comes to Bitcoin, no matter what happens to the demand lever, the price can go up to $1 billion a coin and the supply cannot be adjusted. And that's what's valuable. That's the point of a hard asset.
It's very hard to know how hard an asset is if you don't know how many ounces there are out there. You just don't. I love that supply demand lever analogy. But this chart right here he's getting ready to get into absolutely blew my mind. Check this out.
And to really put it into figures to show you exactly why this is important, I want to show you a chart here of gold valued not in dollars, because we already know what the gold value in dollars is, $1,920 an ounce. Let's look at gold, but valued in the amount of money that's been printed. So a lot of people say gold keeps up with inflation, and yeah, it might do that. But does gold keep up with debasement? This is the biggest scam that gold has on people. It does not keep up with debasement. This is gold valued in the amount of US dollars being printed. And the peak value that it had was in 1980. And that was even for a brief moment. But even then, if we look and we come all the way through this chart, gold has never ever managed to recapture that value from 1980. And that was when the US dollar was readjusted. So yes, at some point in the future of gold, there may be a revaluation point, and you may have this little spike like there was from 76 all the way up to 1980, and then you better hope you get out at that point, because it's going to come back down. There are moments like this when gold is revalued against the currency and all the debasement that's happened, but you have to get out. You have to get out and get into something more productive.
I love that chart. People, always look at the prices in dollars and things like that. But let me say this. And this is what I talk about with gold and the silver paper market too. I'm talking about the regular bullion silver. It's all manipulated. We've heard this millions and millions of times, right? We know it's manipulated. 90-something% of the gold market is based on the paper market. Same with silver. You know what I mean? Except with this stuff right here, they're not making any more of this. But I'm talking about eagles and regular bullion, gold and silver. It's all manipulated by the paper market. We know that, guys.
So gold has never ever kept this value. The other problem is, let's say you're investing in gold for your children's future. You've literally been losing value every single year holding gold. Literally losing value. Your price hasn't even appreciated because the long-term CAGR on gold, the last year is great, so everyone's telling you get into gold, it's 15%, that's great. But the 10-year CAGR on gold is like 4%. It's like 4%, hasn't even beaten inflation, let alone debasement. Debasement to me is the real enemy. The real enemy is the amount of dollars that have been printed, not the manipulated inflation figures that they put out there. And gold's value in terms of the amount of money that has been printed is down here, right? We're at 1999 level lows approximately in terms of actual value of dollars printed, gold gold based on the amount of dollars that have been printed.
If you don't understand what he's talking about the years and everything else and how much dollars have been printed to gold, just go back and look at that chart, because that's the first time I've ever seen that. And I had to look at it a few times. At first I was like, go back and look at that chart when you get a chance and really study it.
And of course, you factor this in with the fact that gold can be mined anywhere in the world, and there might be a supply of gold coming into the market that you don't know anything about. In fact, I said once I got into Bitcoin, I said this to someone. I said, if you can tell me exactly how many ounces of gold were mined today, I'll put half of my net worth back into gold. Nobody can ever tell you. Is that really the type of investment you want? Where the supply is unknown, the way it makes profit, the way it keeps you wealthy against the value of debasement that's going on is completely unknown, because the supply schedule is completely unknown. Is this what you want for your wealth? If you're trying to protect your children, you're trying to protect your future, you're trying to protect the value of everything that you've built, what you want is something that's scarce.
I'm going to take it a step further. I want something that's finite, that I know exactly what it is. Again, I'm going to take it a step further. I ask that question all the time, what he just said about how many ounces of gold or silver are minted every day, or, mined every day. No one knows. You don't know. I don't know. How many ounces of gold do we have in America? How many ounces of gold are in Fort Knox? How many ounces of gold are on our balance sheet in America? We don't, in the U.S. government. We don't know. But let me tell you this. Every about 10 minutes, give or take, 6.25 Bitcoin come into the ecosystem. Every 10 minutes about. So that's about 900 Bitcoin a day, right? When the halving hits next year, because the demand is going up, by the way, for Bitcoin. The adoption is going over, and there's going to be a base layer, and we'll talk about that later. It's going to be cut in half. Again, how many ounces of gold and silver are being minted or mined every day? We don't know.
That regularly is going to keep going up and maintaining the value against the amount of dollars that have been printed. You don't want something that's going to take 75 years, because you might be dead by the time those 75 years show up. In fact, Charles Schwab's latest data and their investment reports that are coming out now are showing that this new generation doesn't care about gold. It's reducing the percent. Gold was already roughly like 2% of portfolios. That's coming down as $60 trillion is moving from parents to children, grandparents to children. It's moving because young people understand that gold is not the asset that they were promised it to be.
This is a tough pill for older guys like us to swallow, but we can't look at it through a lens of what we want. We got to look at what the market wants. And I have a 22-year-old daughter. I got nieces. I got nephews. I got godkids and everything else. And none of them that I know care about gold and silver. When I tell them about gold or silver and I tell them about Bitcoin, they always go towards Bitcoin. You know what I mean? This is the greatest wealth transfer in human history. And all this money is not going into gold and silver, ladies and gentlemen. It's going into Bitcoin.
So you might have a little bit of gold in your portfolio to feel good. It might be a bearer instrument. But is something really a bearer instrument if you can't take more than $10,000 of it over a border? Because if you've taken a flight, you got to fill out that form. Do you have more than $10,000 of cash or cash equivalents? And gold is one of them. If you do, you got to declare it. And then it's their choice. Right? Whereas with Bitcoin, I can take that over with no issues, right? Got zero issues. Bitcoin is everywhere and nowhere at the exact same time, unlike gold.
Freaking love that analogy. Bitcoin is everywhere, but nowhere at the exact same time, meaning it's in the ether. It's everywhere. If I want to go to another country, it's there. If I want to go anywhere, it's there, anywhere on the globe. But it's nowhere when I get to the airport. It's nowhere when I get to the train. It's nowhere when I get to the boat or a ship. This stuff right here, I love this stuff, but I'm thinking about this constantly. Like, I can only bring $10,000 or less than $10,000 of this stuff on here. And just on this table alone, I don't know what to say. I have a lot more than 10,000, and so do you guys, right? Even with your gold, you can try to hide it, whatever, but they're going to find it. You know what I mean? Because it's a bearer asset. You have to physically hold it. But with Bitcoin, I don't even have to bring this. I don't have to bring any of my cold storages. I can just break them and leave them at home and go overseas and then buy another one and enter my key phrase in there, and I'm back in business.
So my point here is to wake up the gold bugs and release you from the people that have captured you into thinking that the world is terrible, gold is the only thing that can protect you, and that gold is something that has a finite supply to it. Not only does it not have a finite supply, the supply is completely affected by the demand for it, which is completely not what it has been promised to be. Therefore, gold, it is, if I'm a miner, it is my incentive to get together with other miners and figure out how to manipulate the price of gold to keep sales high enough while we dig this out of the ground. Therefore, there will never be the supply shock that anyone's talking about because the supply is infinite. The supply is infinite.
The supply is infinite. Compared to the US dollar, of course, it's very, very hard and much more hard or harder to, mine gold than it is to print dollars on the screen, of course. But compared to Bitcoin, it's infinite. Gold is infinite. You can get so much and find it anywhere, like I said, the other places. And that's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of gold bugs because we've been watching these videos over and over again, talking about how finite it is and how hard of a money it is. And again, compared to US dollar, it is, but compared to Bitcoin, it's infinite.
Whereas with Bitcoin, you know exactly every 10 minutes, exactly where the Bitcoin came out, where it went to, and which address it's sitting on. You know that can never be changed. And you know that if you need to move that Bitcoin, you can do it in an instant. This is why Bitcoin is becoming the base layer asset, which is what gold played a role as. Gold played a role in the past as a base layer asset upon which everything was built on. Bitcoin is that, because if you can imagine, let's say there are, 30 central banks in the world, and they all transact on Bitcoin, as like they did with gold. They move Bitcoin from here to there. There's finality of settlement. There's none of this, we'll secure the Bank of England gold in Fort Knox, and then when we want it, they're going to cause a problem. No, at the end of the day, I can settle it. Right now, I can settle $100 billion worth of value in 10 minutes. I don't have to worry about transporting the gold. I don't have to worry about securing the gold. I don't have to worry about none of that. I can transfer the value in 10 minutes.
And he can transfer that value without anybody's permission or a middleman. Better technology always wins and harder money always wins, okay? Gold, like he said, played a role for 5,000 years. It was great. Even when Christopher Columbus came over here to America, the Native Americans had their gold or had their money, right? They had their form of money. And you know what that is, the things they had, right? But it's not just because we were better or we took over the nation and we were better than the Native Americans, gold won out. Because if the Native Americans' money was better, then we'd have used that money. The reason why we use gold, because gold was a better technology and gold was harder money. We always go to the hardest money. And right now, the hardest money ever created is Bitcoin.
So central banks will move and utilize Bitcoin as a base layer asset. And then on top of that, you could use, for example, US dollars, pounds, just like how it was. You had US dollars that were backed 40% by gold, right? So the US dollars were traveling and being used on top of the gold. So gold is the base layer and the US dollars were on top of that. You can do that with Bitcoin right now. You can have Bitcoin as the base layer and you can have US dollars on top of the Bitcoin rails, which is what Michael Saylor talks about.
Bitcoin is 0.1% of the human race's liquid energy. Right now, it's a $400 billion asset. There are $400 trillion of other assets floating around in our current fiat system. They're leaking energy, they're corrupt, they're inefficient. 99.9% of the world doesn't get it. That means you're still early. You can plug in yourself, your company, your organization, your agency, your product, your service, your family, or your ideology. Bitcoin's a union. The union gets more powerful as more people join. And in the war for the future of money, it's going to be won with money. Bitcoin is an economic machine based on a truth machine, poised to emerge as a freedom machine. It's the best choice we have to save our civilization and realize the ideal world envisioned by Ayn Rand and the objectivist movement. Join us.
And that makes a lot of sense, right? That makes a lot of sense.
The Bitcoin base layer infrastructure, whatever you want to call it, is being built right under your feet. You don't even know it. It's the same thing as the internet. All these things on top, YouTube, Google, all these things are things are on top of the base layer of the internet, right? Bitcoin has so many companies and so many functions of technology that's being built on top of it. It's incredible. It is the hardest, best technology money we've ever had. It's a perfect ledger. It's immutable, and it cannot be stopped. When somebody asks, how do you stop Bitcoin? It's like I said, it's like trying to stop calculus. You can't. It's an equation. It's not hacked, hasn't been hacked yet. It can't be stopped. The base layer is there. It's being built right under your feet. And the question to you is, are you going to walk on it or are you going to keep stacking gold? That's up to you.
So the beautiful thing about this is we are heading into a world where, unlike gold, where, you know, the inefficiencies of gold are huge as well, right? Like, I can't carry this much gold around and spend it. What am I going to do? Shave a little bit off to buy shit with it? That doesn't make any sense. We need something of the future. Gold bugs have been sold a lie that keeps them in the past, thinking that going backwards is the only way to go forwards. And that's not true. This is not true at all. And I want to implore you to understand that the lies that you have been told about gold are dangerous to your wealth and the wealth of the people that you are trying to protect, because I understand the intention. The intention is all this money is being printed. I need to protect the value that I'm earning. I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm a businessman, I'm a teacher, I'm a mom, I'm a father. I need to protect the value. I get it. But gold is not what we have been promised. And the gold bugs are incentivized to continue telling you this so that they can continue selling you the gold at a marked up premium. And you have to realize that for most people, the average person, unless you're buying at a big amount of gold, if you're buying the little bricks, you're handing over 50% more than the value of the gold that's in that brick, which means the gold price has to go up 50% in order for you to just break even. If you buy a 1 gram bar of gold, and gold price is, let's just say, $2,000 an ounce right now, and there's a 50% premium on that because of economies of scale, the gold price has to go up to $3,000 before you break even on that 1 gram bar of gold. Whereas with Bitcoin, whether you are a multi-billionaire like Michael Saylor, a millionaire like me, or a street sweeper, we can all buy the same asset without a crazy premium attached to it. And that is the first time in human history that this is possible. So, despite all of this, there are still only 3 rules to Bitcoin. And I hope that I've woken up the gold bugs. And I want you to please share this video with the gold bugs. I want you to please subscribe to the channel, because if you subscribe to the channel, YouTube realizes and Twitter realizes that more people need to see this, and they send it to the right people. And we really have to start saving the gold bugs, because they're being captured by the gold promoters for profit. We've got to start saving them. Bitcoin is a revolutionary asset, and they're not understanding it. This is extremely important to get this message out there, because there are millions of people, just like my parents, who were brought up on the idea of I need to save in gold. We are not going to take a step backwards to try and move forwards when there is a beautiful new technology called Bitcoin. It is something very important that you need to learn about. If this is the first time you're even thinking about it, take the time and learn about Bitcoin, because it actually fulfills the promises that the gold bugs and the gold promoters wrote on the check for gold, which gold cannot cash out. It is the future, and it's important for you to understand it. Despite all of that, whether you do or do not, there are still only 3 rules to Bitcoin. Step number 1, you buy Bitcoin. Step number 2, shut the fuck up. And step number 3, you get fabulously wealthy.
Amen to that. And listen, if you haven't bought any Bitcoin yet, like he said, learn about it, right? What I suggest you do, and I say this in all my videos, download the Bitcoin white paper and read it. Read the Bitcoin white paper. Then watch some videos on Bitcoin, of course. And then buy the book or download the book, because it's on YouTube, The Bitcoin Standard, this book right here. Excellent book. Excellent book, man. Oh my God, that book. I had bought Bitcoin before I bought that book, but once I bought that book, it was great. And then this book right here I showed you the other day, Bitcoin Evangelism, Planting Seeds for the Decentralized Revolution. This book is, man, get it, man, get it. And again, my goal for this channel is simple. I'm here to fight for freedom. I got the U.S. Constitution right here. I read the Declaration of Independence along with all the amendments and everything else. I read all that stuff every single day. And the only way we're going to fix this, we have to fix the money. And on January 3rd, 2009, the money was fixed. It's a base layer that has been built and is building and getting bigger every single day. I love silver. I love gold. And if it wasn't for this incredible technology that was built by Satoshi Nakamoto on January 3rd, 2009, I would have some gold. And gold did its purpose, and I thank God we had gold for all those years. But the problem is we have to trust human beings with the gold. And when they start making these papers or these fiat currencies that are supposedly backed by gold, you know what they're going to do. They're going to do what they always do. Bitcoin is not run by human beings. It's run by a protocol in the network. And freedom fighters and people that love liberty and justice and human rights, basic human rights, are in the Bitcoin world. And we will be going to a Bitcoin standard, ladies and gentlemen, whether you like it or not. Again, the base layer is being built underneath your feet. It's up to you to go ahead and do that. I'm not telling anybody to get rid of their gold or anything like that. I know you see the title of the video, but all I'm telling you is take a very, very hard look at Bitcoin, because I'm telling you, it's going to help you, your family, and your future. And I believe it's going to help the whole entire humanity. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Am I crazy? Again, go subscribe to British HODL. Check out my other videos. And again, do those steps I told you about, all right? You guys know I love you, man. I love you guys, man. You guys are my boys. And, you know, again, this is a very hard sell for me to talk to gold bugs that have been in the gold market for years and years and years. And I'm just a young whippersnapper in this. But again, I'm just doing it, man, because I'm looking for the truth, and I got to tell the truth to my subscribers, all right? I love each and every one of you, and I'll talk to you soon. Peace and love, guys.